It's good to know that you're getting some rest. You always post some nice sceneries and stuff too. Um, I think when we think about rest, there's another aspect, and you said it like you think of things through a spiritual lens. That's perfectly fine with me. I'm the same way. Sometimes I'm like I'm too deep. I know, but um, I I wonder too if there's an aspect of working hard outside of the will of God where
Mm,
sometimes it's like you just tired because you ain't even doing what God wants you to do. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Because like we can be
yeah.
working hard, and I've experienced both of these, so I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. But it's
Hmm.
like times where when I'm working on things and I know this is what the Lord wants me to be doing, that doesn't come with the stress a lot of
Yep,
times. But it's
yep.
when you start taking the wheel and being like, I'm doing this thing, and especially if you haven't even, tried to view your life through the lens of salvation through Christ, then
Hmm.
sometimes you might not know. It's like, man, you carrying burdens that's not even yours.
Yeah. When you said that, I don't know why, but the visual came up of someone trying to make someone their wife so bad and and nothing's working out and you're like exhausted pursuing this person and it's like it's not for you. It's not
Wow.
for you. And can you accept that it's not for you? And that's another. I'm reading this book called Shattered Dreams, and I can't remember who the author is. I think it's Tony Crab or something like that. But he talks about shattered dreams and being okay with the fact that the things that you desire may not happen. Like the
Ooh.
things that you hold so dearly may not happen. And I'm like, no, they're gonna happen.
Right, like, yeah, I agree, but it's gonna happen. Right,
Right,
right.
right, right. And so thinking about you be okay with all the dreams that you have in your mind, and this is again in your mind, unless God has promised you these things, which sometimes is hard to confirm that until it happens.
Facts.
How how can you live a life pleasing to God, a rested life, and still hold open your hands with your life and saying whatever happens, I'm going to pursue what I believe you want me to pursue, but whatever happens, God, it's in your will. And now, and he also mentioned how Jesus, when it came to the point where he was about to be crucified, even Jesus was like, if there's another way.
Like, are you sure? Right.
And it sounds like, so we could ask God, if there's another way,
Right, right.
I would like to take that option, but if that is not your will, I will submit to that. And that's what we have
Man.
to come back to every time with all these hopes and dreams, like this dying hope. I'm gonna hold fast to that, even though like success and money and relationships, I get it, health, I get it, but it's a dying hope. If those things never happen, are you okay? Because that is the will of God. That's his will for your life. Are you okay with that? And some of us gotta look in the mirror like, not really,
Right. And
not
then
really.
figure out how to get there.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's dope. Like I literally as you're saying that I'm thinking like it's okay. And I think it reminds me of contentment, I guess.
Hmm.
And like in our pursuit of ambition and success, we have to be content with where God wants us at. And
Yeah.
if I haven't seen nothing else, I've seen in this life that there's always more to get, right? And meaning this temporary more on this earth. Like there's more. So like you can go and make $100 million and then
Hmm.
go to a certain place and then there's the guy or girl that's worth 500 million, and in that setting they're the man, they the girl, like they are the ones that everybody's gravitating to. And I think sometimes when you're climbing, right? So I'll speak, again, I so that I'm not talking about other people. I try to speak from a personal standpoint of
Hmm.
like I've been climbing the corporate ladder for years. You know what I'm saying? And by the grace of God, I made it to the executive level. And it's funny, like there's two things that kind of happen for me is like you get to be an executive, and then you realize like Well, there's levels to this too. So it's kind of like you go to, from like
Yep.
being at the bottom and like, oh, I'm gonna be an executive. I'm gonna get to this level, and then you like work up, and you get there, and then you realize like, oh, I'm the baby in the room of executives.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, dang, they
Yep.
getting this kind of money, or they doing that. And so what
Mhm.
I'm learning through that process is being okay with where God wants me and understanding there is always gonna be someone that
Mhm.
is higher, that has more. And so I have to be careful not to be pursuing someone else's blessing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And if you think about it, it's the cycle of life. Like going back to school, you thought once you were eighth grade, yeah, I'm at the top. Now you got to be a freshman again. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Then you're a senior in high school. Now you're a freshman again. And then you graduate. Let's say you go to grad school. You're the new person in class again. So it's new. And then you go into your job. You're the new person again. It's going to continue to happen. And so you're right. Contentment is the greatest gift that you can take hold of that God gives us. Because in these seasons where you're going to be the new person, are you going to continue to pursue somebody else's dream that God doesn't have for you? Or you're going to look at what you have and say, I'm good where I am.
I love it. It's such a balancing act because then I think about the other side of like making sure like all right, this anything can become an idol. It's crazy, right? Like
Anything.
hard
Mhm.
work can become an idol, but then like laziness could become an idol. And it
Mhm.
makes me think of like Ecclesiastes. That's why like Ecclesiastes I can just I can get it personally. Um, there's a time for everything like and sometimes I think that can be a challenge for us when we're reading the Bible and we're seeing these different sides of the coin. We can be like,
Mhm.
well, how can God do this and then do that when it's really like that's kind of life. It's this
Mhm.
balancing act between all of these polarizing ideas and trying not to allow yourself to go too far over here and I'm lazy and now I'm not even doing the work that God wants me to do and then I go so far over here that all I'm doing is working and I've lost everything else
Mhm.
that God wants for me. But some you said earlier reminded me of Jonah.
Mm.
Um, because you talked about not getting what you want sometimes,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And
Mhm.
Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh, like at all, to the point where he went into the opposite direction to Tarshish. Like he didn't just not go where God wanted him to go. He went in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah.
But it created all of this turmoil. And
Mhm.
it was really rooted in the fact that he didn't want that. So when you said that we have to be okay sometimes with the fact that God don't that shattered dreams, like God don't even want that for you, bro. Like
Mhm.
that's tough. What pointers would you have for somebody that struggled with that idea? The whole idea of like, you know, I want to be this, and you see celebrities say like, "Oh, there is no plan B. This is my only option," and then you get to a
Yeah.
point and it don't happen. How does somebody gain contentment if they're not content?
This is such a boring answer. Um, Seek God, talk to Him continually. Um, and the reason I'm saying that is because He will speak to you if you open yourself to listening. And I think the lack of rest also closes you off to listening to God because you're doing so much. How do you have time to listen? You're listening to everything else but Him. And so that could be another slow start to your morning. I'm going to intentionally try to listen to God. And so seeking Him